You got to figure out a way how to keep Kawhi Leonard on the floor. As long as he's in street clothes, you're going to have nights like this. You're going to have starts like this. I'm not completely panicking, but this is not the start that you want to have in the season.
You know what's crazy? Just 6 months ago, the Los Angeles Clippers were celebrating. They just pulled off what they thought was a master trade, trading Norman Powell to bring in John Collins and sign Bradley Beal. Steve Ballmer was probably doing his signature celebration dance, thinking they'd finally crack the code to get over the hump. The projections had them winning over 50 games. The championship window was still open. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard leading the charge with their shiny new pieces. But here's the thing about the NBA. It can humble you really quickly. And right now, the Clippers aren't just humbled, they're in the middle of an absolute nightmare scenario that's somehow getting worse by the day. I'm talking about a catastrophe so complete that it makes their previous playoff disappointments look like minor inconveniences. So before we get to this content, I wanted to announce some jersey giveaway winners. Shout out to Reese Roden and Chuckin' a Poo. Bro. That's crazy. For winning a jersey, for subscribing and turning on my notifications on this channel, just reply to the comment with your information and I'll reach out and get that jersey sent to you right away. And I'm still going to be running a jersey giveaway. All you have to do is subscribe, turn on my notifications, and comment what jersey you want in the comment section down below. Or you can follow me on Instagram and turn on my notifications there and just comment on my content there what jersey you want as well. It's my way of giving back to you guys for your years of support and making my dream come true. And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. We've been dominating in my brand new Discord server on a monthly basis in a variety of sports, in the NBA, the NFL, and college sports as well. If you want to join that, click on the WAP link in the description down below. But it's my birthday on Sunday, and I have a very special play for you guys that I feel very confident in on Prize Picks. So real quick, to sign up for Prize Picks, make sure you use my promo code microphone to get $50 when you make a play of $5 or more, and use that $50 to make this play for a chance to win $300. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to go over 213.5 passing yards. I think Shedeur Sanders gets to 200 passing yards. His line set at 160. I wanted to juice my slip a little bit more, so I said he's going to get over 174.5 passing yards. And Jacoby Brissett's been on a heater. Jacksonville's defense isn't that good. I think he easily clears 250.5 pass yards. I give additional plays on my Instagram story and in my Discord community in the WAP link in the description down below. And thank you, Prize Picks, for sponsoring today's upload. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? We need to break down everything that's gone wrong, and trust me, for the Los Angeles Clippers, there's a lot, and it's so bad that it without a doubt ruined the NBA, and I'm not exaggerating. The real gut punch that should have Clippers fans losing sleep at night is what's currently happening in OKC right now. We'll get to that in a minute because that's where this story gets really painful. Let's start with the trade that was supposed to save the Clippers season. I mean, back in July, I praised the Los Angeles Clippers for doing this. They traded Norman Powell to the Miami Heat in a 3-team trade that brought them John Collins from the Utah Jazz. On paper, it made sense from a certain angle. Norman Powell was coming off of a career year, averaging a career-high 21.8 points per game while shooting over 41% from 3. He'd started all 60 games he played for the first time in his career. The dude was legitimately an all-star snub, but here's what the Clippers were thinking. Powell was entering the final year of his contract at $20 million, and they knew they couldn't afford to extend him long-term, not with their books looking the way they do. So instead of losing him for nothing, they flipped him for John Collins, who gave them size and athleticism at the 4, something that they desperately needed. This was a cap flexibility play that also made sure they had cap space for the 2027 free agency class. And then they used that flexibility to sign Bradley Beal, a 3-time All-Star, a former 25 points per game scorer, a guy who could theoretically take some of the offensive burden off of Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. The Phoenix Suns had just bought out the final 2 years of his contract, and Beal signed with LA for 2 years and $11 million. Immediately, we thought this was a steal. This was so cheap. The basketball gods were smiling on the Clippers. Championship odds were finally shifting in their favor. Everything was coming up roses. Except here's where you need to understand just how spectacularly this has backfired, because Norman Powell isn't just doing well in Miami. The man is having a career renaissance that's making the Clippers look absolutely foolish. Powell is currently averaging over 25 points per game. We're talking 26.1 points on 48% shooting, 48% from 3, and 93% from the free throw line. Those are elite scoring numbers, all-star level numbers. He's the leading scorer among all players who switched teams this offseason, ahead of guys like Kevin Durant. He's in the conversation for most improved player despite being in his 10th season, which is basically unheard of. Miami's front office is getting praised as geniuses for essentially trading Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love, two guys who barely played for them, and landing a legitimate 25 points per game scorer who's playing the best basketball of his life. Powell has reached the 20-point mark in all but one of his appearances, and Bam Adebayo is out here calling him one of the co-pilots of the team. The Heat are 7-4. The Clippers, well, let's get to that. Because while Norman Powell is thriving, living his best life in South Beach, putting up career numbers and getting serious all-star buzz, Bradley Beal's season is already over. While Bradley Beal was healthy and he was on the court for the Clippers, the Los Angeles Clippers had the worst defense in the league. On the court, the Clippers had a 128.5 defensive rating with Bradley Beal in, which was good for 30th in the NBA, but the moment he stepped off the court, the Clippers had a 113.8 defensive rating, which was good for 13th in the NBA. So before anything happened to Bradley Beal, there were questions about whether or not he was going to get benched to begin with. But the Clippers didn't really need to make that decision because Bradley Beal's season is already over. And I'm not talking about a minor setback or a few weeks on the sidelines. Bradley Beal fractured his hip and will undergo season-ending injury. He appeared in exactly 6 games for the Clippers. 6. In those 6 games, he averaged 8.2 points on 37% shooting. To put that in perspective, Powell is scoring more points in the first quarter of most games than Beal has averaged for entire games with the Clippers. Lawrence Frank, the Clippers president of basketball operations, called it a very, very fluky injury. Said it was like being in a car accident. The surgeon described it as an acute trauma type injury. Bradley Beal took an awkward step trying to chase down Grayson Allen in transition. He didn't even make contact, and that was it. Season over. 6 to 9 months recovery time. The 32-year-old, who hadn't played in more than 60 games in a season since 2020 to 2021, is now done before Thanksgiving. So let me make sure we're all on the same page here. The Clippers traded away a player that is averaging 25 points per game and is playing at an all-star level. The guy they signed to replace that player on a much cheaper deal played in 6 games, averaged 8 points, and is now out for the season. That's not a bad trade. That's not even a disaster. That's a catastrophic miscalculation that's going to affect the rest of the Los Angeles Clippers season and the entire NBA. But wait, it gets worse, because while Beal is getting surgery and Powell is torching the league, John Collins, the guy they actually acquired in that trade, has been solid but unremarkable. He's averaging 12.9 points and 5.1 rebounds in a reserve role. Not bad, but certainly not the impact piece you'd hope for when you're trading away an all-star caliber player. But here's the kicker. Derrick Jones Jr., who is supposed to provide versatile wing defense, is now out for at least 6 weeks with a sprained MCL. The depth that was supposed to carry them through the season is evaporating. So where does that leave the Clippers? Well, they're sitting at 4 wins and 10 losses. Yeah, you heard that correctly. The team that was projected to win 50 games is 4-10 through their first 14 games. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They ranked 27th in defensive rating, with opponents shooting 47% from the field and making over 15 threes per game at nearly 40%. The offense is 19th in offensive rating. They've scored 108 points or fewer in 4 of their last 5 games. This is a team that looks completely lost on both ends of the floor. And Kawhi Leonard, the franchise cornerstone, the guy they built everything around, he's dealing with injuries again. Yeah, shocker, right? He's missed multiple games with what was initially described as an ankle sprain, but Lawrence Frank revealed it wasn't just an ankle sprain. Leonard also had a significant sprain in his foot. The 34-year-old superstar, who's averaged over 24 points in the games he's played, has been on the court for exactly half of the Clippers games this season. But here's where the story takes a turn from disappointing to potentially franchise altering, because Kawhi Leonard isn't just dealing with injuries, he's dealing with something that could theoretically void his entire contract. And now, I know we've made plenty of content on the Aspire scandal, so I'm not going to do a deep dive into every detail. And if you do want to do a deep dive, I'll leave some content in the end screen for you guys to check it out. But we need to address the elephant in the room. The NBA is investigating whether the Clippers circumvented the salary cap by having Kawhi sign a $28 million no-show endorsement deal with the company called Aspiration, a sustainability services company that Ballmer invested $50 million in. According to the reporting from Pablo Torre, Leonard was paid without any obligation to actually do promotional work, and the deal would end if he was traded from the Clippers. Aspiration has since filed for bankruptcy, and its co-founder pled guilty to wire fraud, defrauding investors of over $248 million. Now, the NBA has hired an outside law firm to investigate, and if they find the Clippers guilty of cap circumvention, the penalties are severe. We're talking fines of up to $7.5 million, forfeiture of draft picks, and yes, the voiding of Kawhi Leonard's contract. Kawhi is owed $50 million in the 2026-27 season. If that contract gets voided, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. Potentially at the end of this season, the Clippers could lose their franchise player for nothing, all while potentially losing draft picks in the process. The Minnesota Timberwolves got hammered with similar violations back in 2000 with Joe Smith. You know, the guy that recently went viral for finding out his wife had an OF account.
I have an OnlyFans page, and he's mad because he's just now finding out about it.
Of course I'm mad I'm just finding out about it.
I'm not doing it with anybody but myself, so why should I have to tell you my choice, my body, my fucking choice?
I'm your partner, you're supposed to come to me and talk to me.
Joe, I've been talking to you about mad things. I've been asking for solutions to shit. You're not giving me none, so I created one.
That's no solution, not in my book.
Yeah, the Minnesota Timberwolves lost 5 first-round picks and got fined $3.5 million for that guy. In their defense, he was a former #1 overall pick, but probably the greatest journeyman of a #1 overall pick in NBA history. Regardless, the precedent is there, and it's ugly. So just to recap where we are, the Clippers are 4-10. Norman Powell, the guy they traded away, is playing at an all-star level and is averaging 25 points per game. Bradley Beal is out for the season after 6 games. John Collins is just meh. Derrick Jones Jr. is hurt. Kawhi Leonard is dealing with injuries and a potential contract voiding investigation. James Harden, at 36 years old, is basically carrying the entire offensive load by himself, averaging over 23 points and 9 assists. And even that hasn't been enough. You know what? All of that, and I mean all of it, pales in comparison for the bomb I'm about to drop on you guys, because the Los Angeles Clippers don't even own their first-round pick this year, and this trade completely destroyed the NBA. That draft pick is going to the best team with the best record in all of the NBA. Let me paint you a picture. On July 6, 2019, at 1:55 in the morning Eastern Time, the Clippers made one of the biggest trades in NBA history. They sent Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, and a historic haul of draft picks to the OKC Thunder for Paul George. The package included 5 first-round picks, 2022, 2024, and 2026 unprotected, plus picks via Miami in 2021 and 2023, and the rights to swap picks in 2023 and 2025. It was the ultimate win now move. The trade that brought Kawhi Leonard to LA alongside Paul George to form what everyone thought was an unstoppable duo. The Clippers were favorites to win the NBA Finals this year, and ultimately they choked in the bubble. But here's the thing about selling your future. Eventually, the bill comes due. And right now, that bill is looking like a past due credit card bill that's been neglected for years because the Thunder used those picks masterfully. They took Jalen Williams with the 2022 pick at number 12. He's averaged over 21 points per game in the playoffs and was a huge factor in the OKC Thunder winning the NBA Finals last year. They got Dylan Jones with the 2024 pick, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the throw-in piece that nobody thought was the real prize. The man just had the greatest regular season of all time. I mean, he won the 2025 NBA MVP award, and he led the OKC Thunder to their first championship since they were the Seattle Supersonics. He's averaging over 32 points per game this season on 52% shooting. He's a legitimate top 5 player in the world, and you can make a very valid argument that he is the best player in the NBA. And that 2026 pick that the Clippers still owe, the unprotected one, the OKC Thunder are going to cash in on that one too, because while the Clippers are 4-10 and spiraling, the Thunder are 14-1. They have the best record in the entire NBA, and they're doing it without their second best player, Jalen Williams. He's still recovering from off-season wrist surgery. They're outscoring opponents by over 15 points per game. They have the best defensive rating in the NBA. Their depth is absurd. They're so good that people are genuinely asking if they could challenge the Warriors' 73-win season. And here's where it gets really brutal for Clipper fans. And hell, if you like watching the NBA? This is where it's going to get brutal for everybody. That draft pick the Thunder own, it's going to fall right in the lottery range where they can select one of the most hyped draft picks in recent memory. Guys, I need to make a video on the 2026 NBA draft class because I don't think people are talking about this enough. The 2026 draft class is loaded. I'm talking about like 2003 NBA draft class loaded. Sure, there isn't a LeBron James in this class, but there's going to be multiple All-Stars and potential Hall of Famers in this draft class. We're talking about a tier of prospects that include Cameron Boozer, the son of Carlos Boozer, who's averaging over 22 points and 10 rebounds for Duke. There's AJ DeBonsa, a 6'9" scoring wing from BYU, who some scouts think has the highest ceiling in the entire class. And then there's Darren Peterson from Kansas, who might be the most complete freshman guard we've seen in years. He's averaging over 21 points per game with size, length, and elite defensive ability. Scouts are calling this one of the deepest drafts in recent memory, with real franchise-altering talent at the top. So let me connect the dots for you. The Clippers are going to give the reigning champion OKC Thunder, the team that's currently 14-1, the team that already has the MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the team that's built one of the most exciting young cores in NBA history. They're going to give them a lottery pick in a loaded draft class that could add another potential all-star to their roster. It's like watching someone rob a bank and then the bank gives them the combination to the vault next door as they're leaving. The rich are getting richer and the Clippers are footing the bill. The Thunder could potentially select someone like Cameron Boozer or Darren Peterson, players who could be all-stars in this league for the next decade, and they'll be adding them to a team that's already won a championship last year. Meanwhile, the Clippers don't own a first-round pick since 2030. That's not a typo. Do you know what happened last time in the NBA when a team was in this situation? The last time a situation like this occurred was when one of the most incompetent owners in all of sports history, Ted Stepien, traded his first-round pick to the Los Angeles Lakers, who would go on to be defending champions, and the Los Angeles Lakers used that pick on James Worthy. And don't get me wrong, James Worthy is an NBA Hall of Famer, a 7-time NBA All-Star, a 3-time NBA champion, and an NBA Finals MVP. But with respect to James Worthy and his draft class, his draft wasn't nearly as loaded as this year's NBA draft. It was just him, Terry Cummings, and Dominique Wilkins. And the Los Angeles Lakers weren't nearly as dominant as the OKC Thunder were. Yes, they were winning championships, but they weren't 14-1 15 games into the season. The Clippers don't have a first-round pick until 2030. That's not a typo. The next time the Clippers have their own first-round selection is 5 years from now. They've mortgaged their entire future, and they have exactly one Western Conference Finals appearance to show for it. Think about that. The Paul George Kawhi Leonard era will be remembered as one of the most disappointing experiments in NBA history, and the Thunder are still extracting value from it years after Paul George left in free agency to Philadelphia. It's one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history, arguably the worst trade in NBA history. I was actually discussing this with some of my friends. Is this potentially worse than the Luka Doncic trade? Because yeah, Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and a couple of first-round picks and role players was a terrible trade, but in this case, the OKC Thunder received an MVP, an All-Star, multiple first-round picks, a potential lottery pick in this year's loaded NBA draft. It's a toss-up. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. So the question is, what can the Clippers actually do? Because sitting at 4-10 with no draft picks and an aging roster isn't exactly a recipe for contention. They're hard capped at the first apron, which means any sort of creative maneuvering is extremely difficult. But there have been some interesting names floated around as potential solutions.
Anthony Davis makes $54 million. You can play around with adding more salaries to bring back more players. Here are the desperate teams that stood out to me. The Clippers. You'd have to build it around Collins, Bogdanovich, Brook Lopez, or Derrick Jones Jr. as the third guy.
Zach Lowe suggested on his podcast that the Clippers can make a run at Anthony Davis. Now, if you're not caught up in the absolute chaos in Dallas, they've been a complete train wreck ever since trading Luka Doncic to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. Davis has only played in 16 games since joining Dallas due to injuries, and the Mavs just fired their GM Nico Harrison. They're sitting at 3-8 and they're looking to rebuild around the #1 overall pick, Cooper Flagg. Lowe outlined a scenario where the Clippers could send John Collins, Bogdan Bogdanovich, and either Brook Lopez or Derrick Jones Jr., along with future first-round picks in 2030 and 2032 to get Davis. The math works from a salary cap perspective. Davis is owed $50 $54 million this season and has 2 more years on his deal. From a financial standpoint, you'd be sending out about $52 million to match. But here's the question. Do you really want to trade for Anthony Davis? The same Anthony Davis who's only played 14 games since February because of injuries, who currently has a calf strain with no real timetable to return, who has a history of injuries that spans his entire career. You'd be pairing him with Kawhi Leonard, another player who can't stay healthy. That's a lot of games where you're paying 2 max contract players to sit on the bench, and you'd be giving up even more of your future draft capital to do it. The Clippers would essentially be going all in on a 31-year-old injury-prone big man and a 34-year-old injury-prone wing, hoping that they can somehow stay healthy enough to make a playoff run. That's a massive gamble, which brings me to the other option. The other name that's been circulating is Ja Morant. Brad Siegel of Clutch Points has reported that the Clippers have emerged as a team to watch in a potential pursuit of the Memphis Grizzlies star. Morant is having his own issues right now. He was recently suspended for a game for getting into it with his new head coach Tomas Lisalo, and he made comments about not feeling the same joy playing basketball.
You feel like you get the same joy right now that we used to seeing from you?
No.
He's shooting 35% from the field and under 14% from 3 this season, which are career worst numbers. The relationship with Memphis appears to be deteriorating rapidly. A potential package could involve John Collins, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and a 2030 first-round pick. Morant is 26 years old, still in his prime, and when he's right, he's one of the most electric players in the league. But the market for Morant is reportedly very slim. Teams are concerned about his off-court issues, the suspension history, and his current poor play. His contract pays him over $39 million this season. Are the Clippers really the team that should be taking on that risk? A team that's already dealing with their own chemistry issues, injury problems, and cap constraints? Here's the reality. Both of these trades are desperate moves. They're the kind of swings you take when you're backed into a corner and running out of options. And maybe that's exactly where the Clippers are, because doing nothing isn't an option either. Standing pat with this roster means watching your championship windows slam shut in real time. Kawhi and Harden's contracts both expire after next season. If you don't make the playoffs this year, or if you flame out in the first round again, what exactly are you building toward? You don't have draft picks, you don't have young assets, you have an expensive aging roster that's demonstrably not good enough. The Clippers are in basketball purgatory. They're not good enough to contend, but they're theoretically too talented to completely bottom out. Although at 4-10, they're certainly trying. They mortgaged their future for a championship that never came, and now they're watching that future blossom in OKC while their present crumbles around them. Every time the Thunder win, every time Gilgeous-Alexander drops 35 points, every time Jalen Williams makes an all-star game, Clippers fans have to sit there and know that that could have been their team. That was their team. And they traded it away for a Western Conference Finals appearance. The Norman Powell trade looks worse by the day. Bradley Beal's season-ending injury after 6 games is a gut punch. Kawhi Leonard's health and potential contract issues loom over everything. The 4-10 record is a disaster, and the Thunder are sitting at 14-1, ready to add another lottery pick to their championship roster, courtesy of the Los Angeles Clippers. Steve Ballmer is one of the richest owners in sports, but all the money in the world can't buy draft picks you've already traded away. It can't bring back Bradley Beal's hip, it can't make Kawhi Leonard stay healthy, and it can't stop Norman Powell from dropping 25 points a night in Miami. The Clippers' nightmare scenario isn't coming. It's already here. The question now is whether they're bold enough to make a drastic move to try to salvage this season, or if they're going to ride this thing out and hope they can somehow convince Kawhi and Harden to run it back one more time next year. Neither option sounds particularly appealing. But one thing's for certain, the OKC Thunder are going to send the Clippers a thank you card after the draft lottery, because while the Clippers are desperately trying to figure out how to compete now, the Thunder are building a dynasty with the assets that the Clippers handed them, and there's nothing the Clippers can do about it. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. I know this was a loaded video, but there was so much to discuss. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.